You ready to go? Well, we live for these moments to come in here after a victory and relish them. And of course, with Michigan looming on the horizon, it was back to the stern face and hard work. But we again, as I said after the game, we are. It makes me feel good for everybody here. We get a hard fought win. That really is our. In my 2 years here, because the one win we had last year was really a big blowout. It's the first close game I've been a part of here at Akron where we were able to fight hard, get in a close game, and win, and do the things to win the game, not to lose the game. That being especially stopping a 2-point play that would have tied it up, and then as the other team gets the ball, we stopped them held them short of the first down marker where they tried to get a first down and the clock ran out, and so. Those are the type of things that you want a team to do, is to do the positive things that win a game, as opposed to the frustration of having the other team make the last play. And I was real pleased with the play of our quarterbacks. Both quarterbacks got banged up a little. One went in one time, he came back out, then Kyle Pohl went back in, and that's kind of the way they were during the week last week, and that's probably the way they'll be this week. So we've got to just go with that, and they complement each other so well, and. We'll just have to let them continue to do that. But Nick Hirschman, probably our most valuable offensive player, because we needed something like a burst at that point. He came in, ran for a touchdown, threw for a couple of touchdowns. And then when he got banged up, he got hurt his knee running down the field to celebrate his touchdown pass. Then Kyle came back in, and he threw 2 critical touchdowns to put us ahead both times, and finished up there. So. Well, I guess that's more. I guess that's more mental, more in the way of they complement each other, they compete with each other in practice. That's probably the wrong word. I don't mean to compliment. Yeah, would be offsetting talents. They pull for each other. They're a good team. They're good teammates. They pull for each other. I don't think one's upset when the other. I don't think one would be upset if the other went in. And they both are just a good 1-2 punch. Nick is a little more of a tuck it down and run. He's 240 pounds. He's more of a tuck it down. I'll look at this guy, I'll look at that guy, and I'll run. Although we've kind of asked him to do some different things, and Cal's going to be able to find his multiple targets a little bit differently. But they were able to help each other throughout the preseason and competition. And throughout the season.
Do you think the way Nick played gave Kyle a bit of a bump in that game when he came back in?
I don't think that was his motivator. I think,
he wants to win, I'm sure.
Absolutely, and I think in Kyle, I mean, he even the interception Kyle threw, we ran a post route, and our receiver cut it off, and he brushed the shoulders of the safety underneath him, and it slowed him down just a second. So Cal actually led him perfectly, but as he got slowed down on his break, the defensive back ran at the same speed and was able to catch up with the pass that the receiver couldn't catch up with. So it wasn't really a bad pass. During the game, it didn't look very good. So I think Kyle's a very calm person. His personality and demeanor is more that he just wants to go out there and do his best. But Nick Hirschman lifted everybody by going out there and making the plays that he made. And lift everybody on both sides of the ball, because we had shot ourselves in the foot a couple of times before that, and he got us sparked, really a second effort touchdown run, and then a heads up throw for a touchdown where the defense was offsides, and we usually just throw a deep ball just to make sure we keep them honest, and we catch it, and he throws a perfect pass and catches it and runs for a touchdown. So. But anyway, those two did well, and but also Juwan Chisholm, he comes back with a couple of huge plays for us, and did a great job running the ball for us, and made a big 3rd and 19 catch on 3rd and 19 down the middle. And so just when you say, gosh, which way is he going to go? Which way is he going to go? He pulls out he's critical to our game. Johnny Robinson led the defensive tackles. Justin March, as usual, one tackle behind him. They did well. And our punter punted well, field position the second week in a row. So overall, as you look at how hard it is to get wins, and how many people suffer losses at the hands of good 1AA teams, and especially a team that's struggling to build up like us. We're awful glad to get it on that game. Now it's Michigan, and our players will be in for an entirely different experience.
You mentioned yesterday about your first time at Michigan was as an announcer.
Well, no, it's fun. There's a lot of interesting stories about with my Michigan. No, that was my first time going there, was as an announcer. With Mike Tirico and I left New York City as a studio and went to the booth for a year with Mike Tirico, and that was our opening game against Miami, Ohio in 2004. That was Chad Henne, was his freshman year there.
Who was that, Bath as the quarterback? You probably didn't
For Miami.
Yeah.
And if you said it, I'd know it because because you knew your broadcast, but Bassard, no. No, it was right after Roethlisberger because we talked about that. Might have been Mike Bath, but I was interviewed. I remember he wouldn't let me interview Chad Henne. Lloyd Carr, I think he was their starter got hurt and he had to start as a freshman. He wouldn't let me. Michael Hart, the little tailback, started his first game there, and Braylon Edwards had 6 catches in that game. And
Big Ten teams did you play at all?
I don't know that I played any Big Ten team. Penn State. I played Penn State in the Outback Bowl. Lost that game to Coach Paterno in the '95 Outback Bowl. But I went back and looked at some other interesting things about this game. It's funny. John Pont, my son-in-law and inside receiver coach, his grandfather, John Pont, who was the head coach at Miami and Northwestern Indiana, went to school, was classmates of Bo Schembechler and teammates of Bo Schembechler, Carm Koza, and John Hoke, Brady's dad. And his position coach was Eric Parsegia, and the head coach was Woody Hayes. And I thought that you need to talk about the cradle of coaches. What an interesting group. John Pont's going to go out there, and his grandfather's teammate, and is the head coach's father, and Bo Schembechler, passed, God rest his soul, and Woody Hayes. It's an interesting group. And then in 1991, when Florida State played, my dad took his team up to Michigan and won one of the big games in Florida State history, 51-35 or something like that. First touchdown was scored by T-Buck on a 40-yard interception in that game. And then even better than that, in 1983, my first year as a head football coach, I got word that a player had been kicked off the team at Michigan, and his name was Jeff Shaw. He was the first freshman to start for Bo as a nose guard for the 1980 Big Ten champions, Rose Bowl champions. But he was still going to school there, so I tried to call Bo, but I knew he wouldn't answer the phone for me, so I told his secretary, Coach Bowden, was calling. He's a good friend of my dad, and he got on the phone and just laughed, and then he sent the player to me. He became my first All-American from Jeff Shaw from Michigan. He started as a freshman there, and then played for me at Salem College, and it was funny because that year I went with Mike Tirico, and I went to the broadcasted their game on Friday. You go in and watch. They practiced on Friday. We went in and sat in John Falk, I think he's retiring this year. He's their equipment manager of 40 years, who's from Miami, Ohio also. We sat with Bo and him. They told stories for about an hour, and me and Tirico listened to him tell stories. And then we went out on the practice field where they had a tradition then of the band going on the practice field and playing the fight song for the team. Then the drum major gives a speech to the team, and it was very moving. And Tirico lives there in Ann Arbor, so that was kind of his deal. But it was some interesting connections there, Not that has anything to do with the game.
So then when you run out there Saturday, all kinds of wistful memories.
Yeah, well, yeah. My dad did lose there in 18-16, I think in '86 or so. He lost one there as well. But anyway, but this will be my first game having coached in that against Michigan in there, and they are just a fantastic. They're an outstanding football team. They are, and they played. Just recently, beating a big game, winning a big game like Notre Dame in just the opposite fashion. The year before it was like 13-9 or 13-10. They lost, and this one is a high-scoring game that they got a lot of weapons. Outstanding quarterback. Their defenses, they're very good.
So, since we're talking defense,
Mm-hmm.
how do you evaluate them right now based on the fact, for instance, that James Madison ran 94 plays?
Just a little too many. Just give them. First of all, James Madison's a pretty good football team. I mean, they averaged 35 points a game last year. They're a pretty good football team, and they scored a lot of points against a lot of people. But we're still giving up too many big plays, you know. And we're playing too good. We're playing too good for those numbers for that number to be indicative. But I think you give up. They got the biggest thing was the 219 yards on 8 plays, you know. But we just got to keep, you know, the numbers aren't as good as you'd like them to be. But the play, you can sit there and watch the video and see the play. We just got to make more plays, make plays, and put them on the bench. We played 2 pretty good offenses. I bet if we'd have played Morgan State, we'd have had really good numbers, and we wouldn't know much more about us. But we did. But as we get towards our conference and go on, we've got you've got to get off the field. You can't be on the field that long and without getting people hurt or the other team. You got to put them through. You know, got to get people off the field, and so that's been the real challenge.
I'm thinking of the 2, particularly like the 4th and whatever, where they threw it from the 31 down to the 1, and the 56-yard play. Your guys are right there.
Didn't make play. I mean, and I said after the game, that's the frustrating thing is they were not in position to make a play, but they didn't make the play. Now, hopefully, a lot of those things went against them in one game. You know, we did get an interception by Anthony Holmes to stop a drive, and there were some critical stops. But on the other hand, there were too many plays that kept them on the field, and so it's a real challenge this year. What's that?
Is there any particular down that's getting you first down?
Well, I mean, I think there's a little bit of. I mean, there's a little bit here, a little bit there on all of them. But I think third downs when we've had. I think they were much too successful on third downs to keep those drive going. So we got to look at, and you got to look at what you're doing maybe and see what you're doing and what your kids are able to do. And make sure that you put them in the best situation to be successful.
Coach,
Mm-hmm.
going back to the win, you guys are down 13-0 before you run a play from the line of scrimmage.
Right.
In that scenario, you seem to be, when you're in a press conference dealing with the media, rah-rah guy. Are you rah-rah guy then on the sideline?
Who's that comedian who says, "Well, that was my inside voice"? I have my outside. You have to be a rah-rah. You've got to lead from out front. You've got to create a positive morale, and your players have to see that you're not panicking because you don't want them to panic. Because the last thing I usually say going out to every game, I say, "Men, it's a crazy game. The ball's is oblong, not round. Funny things happen. It bounces crazy ways. Don't panic when things go crazy if they happen. It could go our way, it could go their ways, but invariably it almost happens. Don't panic. Let's keep on playing for 60 minutes. So that's what you play. Now, my inside voice has said, not again. I mean, I'm a human being, but you must fight just like anybody does. You fight through it and you lead, and that's exactly what happened. It took a play here or there, but when you get better, you stop having those problems. You know, I mean, the worst drive of all was the first one. You know, that was one of the worst ones because of the way it started the game. They had a big run, then a 10-yard penalty, and then they drove 85 for a touchdown. You know, and then we fumbled the kickoff. They had a touchdown. Then for 6 straight drives, they were almost 3 and out. We had it figured out for 23 minutes. The defense had it going, but they made some. Whether they had some injuries, some different people put in it. The second half, they could not get them off the field as much.
You talked about the way you guys won.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a discernible difference in the way this win is affecting them as opposed to last year with Oregon State?
Yeah, I think they realize. I mean, they realize what the game that they fought and how they had to fight to win. I mean, you look at the other teams in their conference. This team beat them. Just to put it into perspective, because I'm not saying we're not a returning bowl caliber team. We're not a returning team that just went to bowl last year. James Madison beat Towson 13-10 last year. Towson beat Connecticut this past weekend. I mean, New Hampshire's in the league, and I think Central Michigan had those 17 on the board in the last quarter to win. You know, and there was another one in there, and Maine beat UMass. You know, and so that conference doesn't feel they feel the top 5 feel kind of MAC-like, and so I think our players know one thing: they went out and fought their hearts out, and on the edge, and I'm on the edge of my seat when that game's at that last minute. Every thought in your head goes through your head, and they came up and won the game. And so now, does a team like Michigan give you time to think about it? All of a sudden, the next day you go to Michigan and you turn the film on and you sit there and you've got another monumental mountain, and now you have to get yourself approached it. So all those things have gone through their heads. So, you know, I think the the one thing it is, we know that we've got to keep getting better. And the one thing that was mentioned, the defense's ability to get people off the field. You can't play 94 plays. Now if we're playing 94 on offense and giving them the ball, but I think we had 56 plays on offense. We've got to continue to get better on offense as well.
C.J. Mizell
Uh-huh.
had the three tackles for loss, 1 sack. Come along. I mean,
He's very talented, and he can make plays. He's got great athleticism, about 6'1" or 240 pounds. But he might have been out of play. He might have been supposed to drop into coverage when he made 2 of those, because he just goes and he just lines up. There's the ball, go get the ball, kind of athletic ability. And as he learns more how it fits in, he's really going to be a better asset to us. We've got a lot of games to play, and hopefully we'll get better and better as we do. But it allows us to substitute him and Rossi in there and get some. He's a bigger body with more athleticism. But you're right, 3 tackles for loss, a sack, and a couple of tackles for loss was awful good for us.
Can Michigan keep pressure?
Their quarterback.
Yeah.
If they have to pass, if they pass, they may decide that they're getting 21 personnel and see if they just physically run it down our throats and play action. That's the one thought. But they do like getting one back and spread it out and pass too. That's part of their offense, and that quarterback can do both. So I don't know. They're very good up front. You're at a premier level, but we have some ways. We have some guys that can get to the quarterback pretty good. And do a pretty good job of getting to the quarterback. And they've been pretty effective getting to the quarterback. I think Central Florida, although I wouldn't put them in Michigan's, they're the similar, they have some similar athletes. They're playing quite a few similar athletes at Central Florida as we have in Michigan, just not, I think they're not as not quite as physical. They're just as fast, just as big, but I think not quite as physical as Michigan. But and we were able to get to that guy several times. But I don't, sometimes you get to them. If you go too hard to get to them, you give yourself out of lane. So there's got to be a point where you try to do the best you can. But there's going to be some times we get to him. And there's times we got to just slow him down the run, slow him down, and we got to play a great football. We've got to win the turnover battle. Saturday it was 2-2, but for offense, and we each week we had a kicking game turnover, and we lost the kicking game, and we had a chance to win the kicking game by turnover battle, which is so important for us once we turn this program toward of winning close ball games, and we're getting closer. But we've got to, and I think, it wouldn't hurt for if Michigan were to, if we could win the turnover battle, that'd help. In a game like this, that would really help you. I watched, y'all saw the Western Kentucky, Tennessee, where Western Kentucky had 6 consecutive plays. They lost 5 turnovers. All 5 went for scores. Game over. And all scores in one play. So it was amazing. So turnovers can you need to try to win that one this week and for it to help us.
Coach, since you coached the Michigan level when you were
Mm-hmm.
at Auburn,
Mm-hmm.
do you have any realistic expectations, or is that a bunch of media hooey about they beat Notre Dame, and they're like, oh, here comes Akron, and they're not too concerned about you?
You motivate with every tool that you can, and you show similar games that similar people played at similar times in similar circumstances, and you create those visions, the possibilities. There's David and Goliath stories every week in college football and in sports, and there's somebody that upsets or beats someone they shouldn't. Now, this Michigan's the top 10 team. I think they were close if they're not in the top 10 right now, and you get there by making sure that doesn't happen to you, And but those are things that you use and you present to your team, absolutely, and to motivate your team.
Did you show Appalachian State or will you show Appalachian State?
To me, I don't know to me, Appalachian State is just another word for the Doug Flutie effect. We still use Appalachian because it doesn't happen very often, and that's been how many years? Like every.
Well, that was
Ten-
Car, or was it?
It was a long time ago. That's what I'm saying is every time I'm recruiting, there's a 5'9" quarterback they say, well, Doug Flutie can do it in the pros. Yeah, Doug Flutie was 40 years ago. So that's why. So every 40 years there comes an Appalachian State, and they're 1AA. They were national champs 3 times straight. That we've used that. I've used that in other places. You know, that's been a great one. That you used it on both sides. You know, and I think it was a scheduling flaw. You don't schedule the 3-time defending 1AA champion. You know,
Wasn't that a transition year for Michigan?
that was Lloyd's. I don't know. Was that?
The transition team. I mean, I don't think he had a.
It wasn't a great. Yeah, he was moving. Yeah, I think it was, and it was not. It wasn't a power. There's no. I've gone through all the Appalachian State issues in my head. That was Lloyd's. He was building at that point, and that team was a building team, and Appalachian State was one that nobody would want to play because they were running a very good, a very interesting option offense, and a very difficult to defend option offense, and we're winning all their games.
Michigan gave it away with Turner.
Right, exactly. It was. Hey, you're not making my case here. Come on, we're on the record way too much.
Talking about Turner.
Yeah, well, turnovers have to happen. There's no question turnovers happen. I mean, we went back and we've got a lot of history in our staff of being on the other side of where we almost got beat, you know, and didn't do. I mean, we played when I was at Auburn. We played Western Michigan, and I think we beat them 17-7 or something. It wasn't that much. And my dad, he was losing to. He beat Jacksonville State one year, 16-9, or you know, when they had pretty good teams, and Georgia Southern was winning at halftime one time against him, you know, and you got to go out and you know, and those we've all been on both sides of the coin on those games.
Andrew Pratt had a real good game.
He sure did.
Would he have been in there at all if Steiners hadn't been hurt, or is that
Probably not. I'm not sure. He's getting reps, but he got a hamstring or he had a hip flexor. Missed most of the preseason, so he was slower in getting reps. And then when Sconyers just in non-contract drills on Thursday, you know, we've lost Conyers for the year, and but he has a red shirt left.
Yeah.
But that doesn't. It's not as hurtful because you got Andrew behind him, and you really got a third wide out with Bennett who can play both outsides on either side. But he wouldn't have been in there. But and it's a funny. He had more drops during the week. My brother had him doing up downs every day. He had a week. It was frustrated. He was frustrated, and it was just like of all. And he goes there, has a great day, made 2 huge catches and a big third down catch. All 3 of his catches, he had about 118 yards, but all 3 of them were critical. Huge plays, and did a great job. So awful proud of him. Then Zach DeRazio, 5 catches. He had 2 of them. The 23 yards isn't like much because we were on like the 2-yard line, 3-yard one when he caught his pass, 2 of his passes.
It seemed like you could tell the difference between our wide receivers and their defensive backs as far as I thought we had a big advantage there.
Well, if you look at our scouting report, well, I didn't talk about it. They had 2 redshirt freshman corners, and when we went our post routes, their safeties play so tight, you're really playing one-on-one with the corners, so they had a new starter at one safety. They had number 16 was a great player, and he led their team in tackles along with their inside linebacker. But they had young corners, you know. And if you look at Michigan, if you said what is their stated weakness, it's their secondary based on how good their front is. But that's relative to their own strength. You know, I think they state their question mark of going into the season may have been a little bit of their secondary, but that relative to the Big Ten.
Talk about your last possession because you had it third. I think at 3rd and 5.
We had it. We had the perfect play call, and we had the perfect play called. Kyle missed a pass that he'll be there when he makes that because he missed one that he had wide open, which would have ended the game. Right. See, that's one of those where offensively we didn't finish it. We didn't finish like what we did. First of all, they had about 5.5 minutes left, and I'm not sure last year we could have taken 1 first down off that, but we made 2 first downs, and we're taking that clock. All we need is 1 more, and that thing's over. And we got a 3rd and 5, and ran a little flag route on the boundary, and it's just he hits it and he got quick on it and overthrew it.
I think there's about a minute 19.
Minute 19. Now we had to punt.
And you think about running the ball, taking more time off the clock there?
Well, they could have called a timeout. I think they probably would have wasted their last timeout if we'd have done that, and done that. But I thought if we get a first down, I thought they'd use their timeout. Because they really, if you got a 1-minute drive, you really don't need to save. If you need to save the seconds, you're not going to. They would have used it, and I felt they would have used it. And I said, let's get the first down, and it was the right call. And Kyle knows he'll hit that thing most of the time. I mean, he was 66%, I think, 64% the other day, and 75. He's still a fairly accurate passer.
So, you say you overthrew that.
Mhm.
Of course, his receiver's 5'5".
That was Friesen? Was that Friesen, or was that? It might have been. They both played the same position. It could have been.
Talking about Franchon a little bit,
Um.
I mean, obviously, he's, the size does not seem to handicap him.
Really does. All I can say, he's been small all his life. He didn't just get little, because he was probably the littlest guy on the field in high school too.
Right.
Quite often, but he's the biggest, one of the biggest talents out there, and his speed is obvious. But what wasn't obvious is that he's not afraid. And he's very confident that he can go out there and make a. Now he dropped he hit the big run he had. We ran the same play again, and he dropped that one. But that's he's a freshman, and how he will fit. And I don't care how many big games you have at St. V. There'll be 116,000 on Saturday, and they're not that big. But all I can say is we really could see how special his skills are. And the fact that he's been mature enough to be able to play in games has been a real plus. And it's just going to get better and better, because a lot of things he doesn't know exactly what the play requires him to do. But when he knows what to do, he does pretty well.
He's been a couple shoestring tackles away
From to really do it. Well, in fact, he was reaching that ball over. He probably would have got a touchdown, but it slipped out of his hands as he was reaching over it, and it fell out. It went out of bounds about that far, but he'd have probably gotten one there. And I want to see the expression on the Michigan player's face when they see him warming up. I mean, that to me is because he's got a very boyish face, a childish face. He looks like a 14-year-old player, and he's a wonderful young man, and he's got confidence, and he's wonderfully talented.